Welcome back to the Locker Room Podcast, episode number 87 today. I'm very delighted to welcome on James Scott, who is under 17's national coach for Ireland women's team. And he's going to come on today and talk to us a lot about his role, his coaching journey, and just lots about football coaching in general. I know a lot of the listeners call it soccer. Me and James just had a discussion around that. And we're going to call it football today and be very hard on that. So, James, you're very welcome to the podcast. Thanks for coming on, mate.
Thanks a million, Ross. Yeah, I'm delighted to be on.
No, I appreciate your time, especially as you're going on camp tomorrow, and I'm sure you'll speak about that in terms of what your job entails and your prepping for the Euros as well. You want to start us off, James, just with a little bit of a whistle stop tour around your coaching journey, where you've got to. I know you've been at the FAI now for a number of years, just in terms of what your job entails and kind of how you got there, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I suppose I'm one of them ones that started. I think I started coaching when I was 15. I would have been in my local primary school, and we would have played an event. And when I left to go to secondary school, I went back coaching that team. And I love football. Probably back to the Italian '90 was when I kind of, I suppose, it just consumed me. Started coaching when I was 15, coaching primary schools. Then I went and done sports management course in UCD. And then that's when I kind of started my formal coach education. So I would have started, I think it was Introduction to Coaching was called then with the FEI. And, that was, again, came back to my local club, started the academy there. South Tipperary would have been my local league. So I started getting involved in Kendy Cups, which would be a big, massive competition for the boys at that age. And, at that stage then I was like, right, that I wanted to work in this game, and I was looking for opportunities. And lucky enough at the time, the FEI were appointing a lot of people to development officer roles all over the country. And it was actually 4-time lucky. My fourth interview, I got North Tipperary development officer, and really lucky in a way because it was an area that didn't have anyone there before. So it just allowed me start and really just set out, this is what we're going to do, and got a number of coaches around and so on. I think development officer in North Tipperary for maybe 12 years. I would have done bits and pieces then with the international teams during that time as well. Boys, mainly, I would have been under 16 assistant coach with the boys team with Paul Ozam. And then I think maybe 4 years ago now, I got offered the job of under 17s women's head coach. And I've been in that role since. And then maybe about 2 years ago, I also took on the role of girls emerging talent coordinator. So basically, it's like the player development manager for girls football all over the country. I suppose it was difficult at the time doing the head coach of the women's team and being a development officer, very kind of different hats. But now, I know pretty much all the girls from 12 up, and obviously coming into me now at the under 17s. And along with that, then obviously I would have done all the coaching badges. I think starting the main badge I would have started probably in about 2003, would have been I think it was called the Youth Cert, or the Level 1, I think it was called at the time. And then I done UFAB in 2005, UFA 2008, and Elite Youth A license maybe 2020. And then I just finished a pro license last year. Probably a long, going back to 2003 is nearly 20 years, so you see sometimes now people go through it very quickly, but I think I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed taking my time, and I was playing obviously along with it as well. And it's a long journey. When people kind of say, oh, how long you been coaching? You kind of go, Jesus, I've been coaching nearly over 20 years, which is madness when you think about it. And I still count myself as young enough. I'm only 41, it's mad.
Brilliant. Thanks, James. And very, very highly qualified top coaching badge you can get, mate. So congrats on that recent passing. Just very quickly on how does your job look like then differ from when you go on camp? Obviously very intense and you're coaching all the time, to when you're not on camp. What does that look like for you, and how do you balance the two?
Yeah, I suppose look, when you're in camp, you have we have a team operations, everything is laid out in terms of, along with myself, the itinerary. Every camp it's not, no camp's kind of the same, because it could depend on kickoff times, it can depend on even availability. At the moment, we're going to Portugal next week, and one of the biggest issues is training pitches, because they've had obviously a very warm summer, and everywhere is the pitches aren't in great nick, so we're trying to balance that and so on. And obviously, you have team meetings then, staff meetings. So days are really, really intense. Like, but always like try to have like, at least maybe 3 hours where there's nothing on, like, because like for all staff, it's good to like have that time where it might be go have a coffee, go for a walk, whatever it might be, even put your head down, like, because when we go into camp now, we go into camp tomorrow, like we'll be there for probably 10 days, like it's a long time, like, and you do need to balance like the work and rest as well, like, and obviously when games and even obviously a camp starts long before in terms of analysis of the opposition and all that, like that can go into the long hours as well, like, and in fairness, I look, have we have an analyst with us and two assistant coaches, like, so the work is well spread out, but it's yeah, it's intense. And then obviously it's not even just like team meeting, you're having individual chats, like, and it could, players now, what I see with the girls, like always mad for feedback, like, so that could happen anytime someone's asking about something or how can I improve, be that video, everything. So yeah, camp's really intense. Like off camps then, like one of the biggest things is obviously player ID. So getting around to see as many games as possible, see the players in their own kind of environment. I also go to see sessions as well within their clubs, and then obviously I take sessions as well. And I also, like, aside from this role, as I said already, I'm also the player development manager kind of for the country, which is probably more intense than the actual head coach job, like, because we have 11 centres all over the country that take place every week. Maybe 70 staff, nearly 500 players, like, so, like, just logistically of that, like, and managing all that and budgets and everything is colossal, like, so like, yeah, so like that's kind of like, I suppose, like my wife will say she never sees me, basically, like, so it's kind of that way, like,
Yeah, it can be cruel. Just quickly going back to the camps, because like I've been on international camps, I've done many pre-seasons. It really is intense, isn't it? Like you want to squeeze as much as you can out the camp, but as you say, like looking after the welfare of the players and the staff, that downtime is so important throughout that period.
Yeah, massive. Like, and like, I think players are starting to understand now that rest and recovery is everything as well, and like having, like, even like sleep is the biggest recovery too. Like, so like we do loads of education and all that as well. Like, along with, like, who we playing and how do we prepare for them. Like, so like yeah, really, really intense. And then I think we have to be careful as well, like, because you know while I think players nowadays can take on a lot more, and even when they come in, tactically, like, they're a lot more switched on over my time coaching anyway. I would definitely see that way more than I was when I started coaching, even, like, so like, they do take on information, but we do have to be careful, like, and again, as usual, not everyone is the same. Some players mad for that, mad for the visuals, all that, and there's different people will say, oh, fair to do this, so it's very quickly, probably the biggest thing is making a connection with players and getting to understand them as well. Like, I really, like, put an awful lot on that. Like, and, probably something we'll speak about again, but, like, I think you can go through all your coaching badges and you don't really touch on that. But, like, nowadays, if you cannot make a connection with players, like, it's you're just not going to get the best out of them. You're not going to get reach their potential, like, and for me, even as a coach, like, I think that's a massive area for development for me to reach my potential as well, that, like, emotional intelligence, whatever you want to call it, like, that is so key, like,
Yeah, very good point. We'll stay there then, James, if you want. Like, how have you managed to do that? And then how have you managed to, I guess, evolve with the times and how, like you said, people coming in tactically more aware, the society has changed. How have you connected those players?
yeah, like, I suppose it's kind of evolved with my job, like, especially when I was younger, in the development officer job, I was dealing with so many different ages, so I could really keep, like, in touch with, like, what the younger players, what the older players, boys and girls, and so on, like, and I think, like, I read an awful lot, like, I'd be very much into, like, leadership, all that kind of stuff as well, like, so, podcasts, all that, I just think at the moment now, that's where we need to be, like, and even, fellow colleagues, like, different head coaches, assistant coaches, staff with the association, always look and see how they do things, so can you pick up any nuggets, like, so, like, and then, you know like, chatting to the kids, like, and the players that you have, like, what we do an awful lot is, like, and I say this to people in clubs, like, you're making a lot of decisions about, we'll do this, we should put this in, we should have that code of conduct. Have you ever asked the players, like, and the amount of times, like, and how, like even it's inspirational when you see someone come into your camp and they're maybe a little bit quiet, and at the end of it they go out like it's nearly a bit of a leader or whatever. Like, that's for me is just as good as anything. Like, so, like, we need to be connecting with them that way, and getting to know them and making them feel comfortable in the surroundings they're in. Like, and we come into camp now, like we've girls in Ireland, all over Ireland, but we've girl coming from New Jersey, we've a girl coming from Durham FC, we've a girl coming from Man City, we've had girls from Australia, whatever. Like, and it's also very, very important that they come in and they feel like part of the group and so on and so forth, and that the girls that are here as well, like, don't see any threat either, like that we're a family, like, and I think biggest thing for me is like, what success as a coach is it's not about this week and how well we do and all that. It's like, can you give them habits that they will have for the rest of their life? Like, that has always been my philosophy, like, in terms of coaching. Like, so I think that's really, really important, like,
Yeah, really good point there, James. I think people are realizing more and more that not to be scared of player feedback about anything. Ask them about how they'd like to travel, what they think of the second, because that just creates like more of a togetherness and I guess a decision making process that isn't about coach being over player, which maybe was done in the past.
Yeah, like, I mean, it was like, I mean, before it was like, I'm the head coach, this is what we're doing, and like, you just go out and play well, like, and listen to everything I tell you, like, I mean, that's not going to work. Like, we've seen some of the even modern day managers who have been in the game maybe 20 years, from where they've been successful to now struggling. Like Mourinho is a prime example, obviously top manager, but he has struggled over the last number of years, maybe because, whereas I've always used the example of Alex Ferguson, like, where you think, oh, a bit old school, but like, he didn't really, because he brought people in around him that constantly evolved and kept the place up to date, like, so I think you have to, like, and that's the way players are now. Like, they expect like feedback, they expect like to be heard as well, like, and like, they like to, and I think it's very important that they can stand up in front of a group and speak and so on. I remember the first time I went to in college to do a presentation, I couldn't sleep for 3 or 4 nights before, and like, and I was only talking to about 10 people in a room. No one cared like what I presented, but like, nowadays, you want kids like to be in front of the group, feedback and tactics, anything, like, and even having a crack, having a sing song or whatever in front of everyone. No, that's all stuff I think is really, really important as well, like,
Yeah, it really is, James. Thank you. Just very quickly, so you said there like about the development centres and you get opportunity within camps to coach. There's a few international managers I know working with the FA, and one of the things they struggle with is when they go on camp, if they haven't coached for such a period of time, they feel really rusty. So it's like keeping your tools sharp. How do you
yeah.
go about doing that, and how often do you coach between camps?
Yeah, so like, I mean, it's funny. It's a really, really good point, because when I came into the role first, and I would also have obviously the player development role, but a lot of that would have been going around to the centres and just seeing everything's okay or whatever. But I actually changed that, and actually now when I go around to the centres, I take a lot of sessions as well. When I go obviously to the under 17 teams in the league in Ireland as well, I take a lot of the sessions as well, like, so I'm constantly like, I could coach 3, 4 times a week, maybe at times, like, it depends, like, so like, but because like, even when you come into camps, like, sometimes it's not even all that much coaching, because you're talking about like, we go in tomorrow, it's match day -2, like, so
Yeah,
so
yeah,
again, a lot of things is walking through and so on and so forth, like, so actually most of my coaching probably done away from camps and all that, like, but it's a really valid point, like, and but that's where you see some people just kind of get lazy and say, I'll just do my bits and pieces here. Like, you need to be sharp, you need to be out, you need to be on the grass. Like, and I mean, 90% of the people that got involved with it loved it because they're on the grass and coaching. Like, and I think that's really, really important. And like, it's not even just on the grass. It's seeing things. It's watching match of the day. It's watching clips. It's this and that. What are they doing? What are they doing a little bit different? Looking at other sports as well, like, which obviously, your podcast does loads of different sports, and that's really, really important, that you pick up things from other sports and what they do as well, like, and just keep sharp on things, like,
yeah. It really is true. And a few people said even just having like a close network, even if you're not in the office day to day, a close network of coaches that you constantly bouncing ideas off, and just like you say, just keeping evolving different ideas coming along.
Yeah,
The other
yeah.
one you just mentioned there, James, was around, like you said, about max day -2 and the load then has to be appropriate. How much does that affect like the camp in general? You said you travel with an analyst and two coaches, so I assume no sports scientists with you on
No,
camp.
no.
So how then do you have to take that responsibility as coaches, and how much education around obviously with your pro license stuff like that, but that bigger picture, not just coaching, but the NDT as
Yeah,
well.
so like, what we do have, we have a physios like absolutely top class, and very well kind of like, across like a number of different areas, like, but like, that is probably a big area for us, like as association and so on. These are kind of like performance sports science and so on, like GPS, all that kind of stuff. Like, so again, a lot of it comes back to like, finding out what they've done today. Like, so I was just at a game there. Like, one of our players played 90 minutes. So like all that information is fed into us, and then obviously then you're looking at wellness. Like, so tomorrow morning they'll fill in like about how they feel, all that kind of stuff. Like, and obviously the physio really gets in around and sees like how players are and so on. And then obviously our sessions need to be tailored like that. Like even taking into account, like, we're not going next week to Scotland, similar temperature, not going to, like, it could be 25, I think 30 degrees, like, and so on. So all that stuff, even the time you train, all needs to be taken into account. Like, and yeah, like it's a really, really tough one as well. Like, because like the players come in and like, all they want to do is impress you. Like, because like I've got 22 players and you've 11 spots like for the first game, whatever, and they all want to play, like, of course, like. And like, it was definitely when I started first in international football, it was definitely one of the biggest things, even from me, but also see the players as well. They just want to come into camp and give it everything. Like, and you're there. No, we need to watch this. But even myself as well over the years, going less is more. Like, let's just make sure we have. And you can do a lot of things like, in classroom, set pieces and all that. Like, I mean, sometimes you see sessions. We train like the next thing. Then we go for 20 minutes and we stand around. We doing set pieces like, like it could, as I said, Portugal, like sun is draining. You can do it them inside in a meeting room. Like, I do a lot of human tactics boards is what I call it. Like, I don't know if
Yeah.
someone's kind of heard that before, but instead of a tactics board, I'd have the players like stood up into formation, all that, have a ball, and sometimes it could be done, during a session, as in the center circle, that's the pitch, and we move the ball around and show them like this is what we're looking to do, and then let's break, let's train, and then when we train, it's coaching on the flow. There's no like stop start and all that. Like, we just let them play, like, but I do the same, like, for things like set piece and all that in meeting rooms and all that, like, where you can just be as effective, like, and again, thinking about the load and what they're capable of that week, like.
Yeah, really interesting point there. I used to do it as well by putting a pitch out in a classroom. So map out the pitch and do walkthrough tactical stuff before you go out. It's a really good
Yeah,
way from a visual learning perspective.
yeah,
How
yeah.
how then, like, how receptive is that? So say you had a girl that goes in who's played 90 minutes, let's say, in a game the day before, but the rest of the team, for example, haven't, and they're on a different loading scheme. How frustrating and how important is it to get the message across to that girl that, look, today you can't do much in training because of X, Y, and Z?
Yeah,
If
like, I
you
mean,
connect
yeah,
with
like, I
them.
mean, look, in fairness, it's not that hard anymore, because like they are well used to it, and it's something like through our development programs we do speak about all that kind of stuff. Like, so now, like, players do understand it, but like, again, it's not just one voice. Like, everyone's there, and everyone's there to make sure they get the best out of the player. I think the players understand that, like, that we're looking to maximize you in this camp, like, so it's not about like stopping you or not letting you train, like, and like, our physio is always as well saying that, like, my job is to keep you on the pitch, not take you off the pitch, like,
Yeah.
and that mentality is there then as well, like, through everyone, like that. Let's see what you're like in the last 10 minutes in a three, because we'll do three games in the Euro qualifier as well, like, and I always say to players, your football fitness needs to be that you play them three 30 or three 90-minute games, plain and simple. And like, you even see in the World Cup now, like, it's not 90 minutes anymore. It could be
Yeah.
110 minutes or whatever. Like, it's so it's a key area, like, that we need to keep educating players on. Yeah.
Yeah, really good, really nice individualization. I think you got your point across really well. Want to just go back a step. You've worked with boys and you've worked with girls at similar-ish ages. What's the biggest difference for you, if any, and how have you adapted then going into the girls' game?
Yeah, like, to be honest with you, like, I can't see anything just like positives, like, with the girls, like, and like, people say that to me, oh, would you go back when you're going to go back to the boys' game? But I'm like, I just absolutely love it, like, because they would just absolutely run through the wall for you, constantly looking for feedback. I don't think in the 4 years I've been involved, I've ever had to discipline, like, as in speak to anyone about their conduct around hotel, like, absolutely of the highest standard. Like, so it's a pleasure. Like, I remember even in our first year, we went to Belgium, and we were in a hotel, and 20 girls, like, obviously giddy coming into the hotel, like, as they would be. And there was like a grandparents coming down the hall, like, and I knew by the head of them, they were looking, going, these are going to keep us awake for our holiday or whatever, like, but at the end of the week, it actually gave me absolute goosebumps, like, to come up to me and they said, like, I've never ever seen a group of girls so well behaved, how they conducted themselves and so on and so forth. Like, and I was just like, that for me is just as good as anything, like, so I think that's really, really important. To get that message across to the girl as well, because you're wearing that crest, and as well, like especially in football, like a lot of people are looking to knock you and all that. Like, so you have to be very, very careful, how what you say, how you conduct yourself, and all that. And like nowadays, especially with the World Cup with Ireland, there's little girls now that'll come and like we go through the airport tomorrow morning. There's every chance that a little girl will come up to master for a picture and autograph, So, um, you know, they now like I have a number of mantras, but one of them would be each one teach one, So like that older player now is teaching the younger players, like, and showing them kind of good habits and so on, that's really, really important.
Yeah, it sounds really good values you're instilling into the girls. I know that's a big part of what you do personally and also as an organisation. What else do you do? So that mantra is really good. What else do you do educationally, and how do you instill that tradition and culture that you want to live and breathe every day?
Yeah, like I suppose a lot of stuff we do, like I mean, just today, like we had a National Academy event, and we had Abby Larkin in to do a questions and answers with the girls, and obviously Abby is the youngest player to represent Ireland now, men or women, at a World Cup, and the girls were like, but like it's funny because 12 months ago I asked Abby to do something similar. She's just after making her debut with the women's national team, herself and Jessie Stable, another obviously top player of the women's national team. And like they were really nervous, like, and even now to see 12 months on, but like I'm not even just thinking about how good it is for the girls that you know she's are asking her questions. It's good for Abby as well, to be in front, because all that stuff is really, really important. So using the players like the role models, and that I think that's really, really important, like that they have that role model now. It's not like Messi or Ronaldo anymore. Like it's Abby Larkin, it's Katie McCabe, it's Denise O'Sullivan, and all them players are really good to come back and speak and give information, all that. But like in our National Academy events this year, like we and even myself with camps and all that, we've changed it. Like it's not come in and do a training session and come in from all over the country and then go look. It's always a player education element. So, the first event we would have done basically an information session for the parents and players to tell them the whole year. Then we'd Abby in today for question and answers. Next week is going to be a mindset. So one of our coaches that's doing a lot of sports psychology and all, she's going to present them on mindset and resilience, which is a massive one as well, and so on. Throughout the year, then we'll have players in that have like really done well with school and college and so on, to say how they balanced school and all that. We'll also look to have colleges in about scholarships and all that. So even though you might be 15 and not thinking, but parents are and so on, and we need to educate them on education and so on, because education is always number one, particularly in the female game, because there's no guarantee. Obviously a massive area as well as menstrual cycle when you're coaching female players. So we would do a really good information session on that as well. Like that's complete eye opener and something that's really beneficial for parents and players. Yeah, so like we've a number of that. So that's all before. Then they go into the under 16s program again. A number of things we hit on there, and it's funny, like you speak about mantras and values, like like this comes back to like a lot of things, like when we had COVID, you had a lot of time in your hands. And I remember, I think I was painting the fence and I was listening to podcast, and it was a podcast. I can't remember who it was with. I think it was I can't remember the one, but it was Steve Kerr speaking about when he started first with the Golden State Warriors and basketball and all that, and kind of like finding his way and how he was going to do things. And he went to see Pete Carroll, the American football coach, and his environment and all that. And after about 3 or 4 days, like Pete Carroll comes in and says, like, right, how are you going to coach? Like, what's your philosophy? How are you going to coach? And he's like going, like, you want me to go through the plays I'm going to have and basketball or whatever we want to call it? Like, and he's like, no, what's your environment going to be like? What is going to be like Steve Kerr, the Golden State Warriors, when they come in, like, what does the place feel? What is your kind of non-negotiables, whatever it might be? Like, and he's like, oh yeah, okay. And he came in the next day to him, he said like 4. And one of them was fun, I think, whatever. But it got me thinking, like, and I'm massive in all these, and like we've all read books like the All Blacks book and so on, like, and there's so many things over the years. And I actually ended up making kind of 11 mantras, and that sticks with me now everywhere, so when I would have spoke to this group at the start of the year, like would have put them up and said, like, these are things that I think are really, really important for you as players, but also as people as well. And like first one is develop the player, develop the person. So that's what we're looking to do. Yeah, we want to develop players, but we also want to develop good people as well. And there's 11 or 10 more or such, like we'll cut through them, but each one teach one obviously is one of them. And some of them are like, one of them is Sweep the Sheds, obviously, it was taken straight from from the All Blacks, but I was always something that I was like from a very young age, like we leave the place as we got it, like, like it's small little things that you say, like switch heads or whatever, each one teach one, they stick in players' heads, like so now even 3 4 years ago, girls ever finished with 17s, like, and they'll say things like another one's light switch is always on, which means you're a 24/7 athlete, like, but they all have it in their head, like, like, James, light switch is always on. Like if they seen me and I was maybe coming out with Supermax, they say, James, your light switch is always on, like, so it's absolutely top class now, like that, and that's the way players are now. It's like all the logos, just do it, Nike, whatever. It's simple, quick things. People remember them, like, so that's a big tip I give to people, coach and all that, like, and even down to how we coach and some of the the things we would do on the pitch. We'll say I try and keep it nice and simple that way as well. Like that players really kind of respond to it. Like
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
really good. I think that even just demonstrates the environment and connection you've got with some of your players, that they're coming out with the phrases that you say. They're
yeah,
using it and finding good use to it. Let's switch a little bit now from environment, as you said there, about keeping it simple. In terms of your coaching philosophy, so how you coach, how you take a group of girls, whether you've had them for years, whether you've had them for a few months, or new people coming in a very, very nutshell. I know it's hard to do, but just describe your philosophy. What do you think is important about teaching these girls to develop? And
yeah.
does it
Like
change?
like I said already. Like like I always like people watch philosophy. Philosophy is develop player, develop person. Like, and like I say that, like, people sometimes say is not the person first and the player, like, but like you need to have the person in and have them playing football and the ball rolling. Now you can affect habits, like, because if you come in straight away and go, oh, this is non-negotiables, and so, and next thing you can have players rebel against, so get the ball moving, and then obviously start to give in habits and all that, like, but like, you know it's interesting, and obviously I was just thinking about this, and I was sure that was a question that you'd potentially ask, like, and it's a funny one now at the moment, particularly with international football. Like, everyone's philosophy is Pep's philosophy. Do you know what I mean? We all want to play, possession football and combinations and high press and all this kind of stuff. And like, a lot of it comes from obviously whoever's doing well at the time. Like, it was big with Klopp a few years ago, probably come again, blah, blah, all that kind of stuff, right? So like, yeah, I want players to be really comfortable on the ball, all that kind of stuff. But as an international manager, like, if we go and play France, or if we go play Germany, or if we go and play England, like, you're going to get blown out of water. Like, so you have to be functional. Like, you need to be clued into, like, right, what are we going to do to this? What's our game plan going to be? Because, like, at the end of the day, we still are a very small country. Yes, we've got to a World Cup and so on, and we should, say, right, let's go and compete. But we do have to be mindful as well of of our capabilities and what we can do in certain situations, and our resources and so on. Like, so you do have to be switched on that way. So like a few little things I give you, like, I'm very much now, like, you look at things like things over the last couple of years, you'll see, in a game, I'm not speaking nearly about Pep's players now, but Haaland has had 4 touches in the box, right? He's had 4 touches in the box. He scored 2 goals, right? How do you coach that, like? But like, that's already got me thinking now. So we need to overload them touches in the box, like, So like when I'm doing sessions, sometimes, just say it's a crossing and finishing session, and everyone know crossing and finishing. But I would always have like second phase balls coming in as well, where it might be someone maybe like at the end line or whatever, on like just or even behind the goal or the side of the goal or whatever, and after everything's happened, they'll play in a ball as well to give another opportunity. Because sometimes you do things like phases of play or something tactical or whatever, and it could be on scoring and getting as many goals as possible. It might be only 2 goals scored, and just centre forward mightn't even touch the ball or do anything that you overly want them to do. So like, if we're wanting that to become really high level, and you only get maybe 4 or 5 touches in the first half in the box, well, like, you need to make them be the top class thing. And for me, the biggest way to do that is train that as much as you can, like, and we, like, other thing I was saying, be passionate about this as well. Like, I go around and I see an awful lot of sessions, and I've done a lot of these sessions as well. And majority of sessions these days, what we're doing really is developing midfielders. Like, there's just so many sessions that are very like possession, central, so on and so forth. Like, and people always come like, oh, where's the wingers gone? Where are the players that, like, all that kind of stuff? Like, I don't know, did you see Messi's pass last night for Inter Miami? It was just out of this world. Like, but like, they're players we do want, like, and we do need to be thinking of that and thinking about the individual and getting position specific as well with the work we do as well. And that's why I'm on it right now, but that's why as well. It's very, very important when you go and you see a session like, you know, look, some coaches here might be themselves and another coach, like, mightn't be all, but like make sure if you're on for 90 minutes that you maximize that 90 minutes. You give everything to the players. Like, nothing annoys me more than come and seeing a session where you might have a head coach and then you have two other coaches or whatever just standing there like not doing anything. Everyone needs to be involved. So like when we go and do a session like tomorrow with the under 17s, I would normally, and people sometimes say, "Oh, your coach position," but I would be normally in the middle of the pitch, right? Because if there's anything quickly I want to give to a player or whatever, I'll keep the tempo going. If it's a high tempo game, sometimes I'll have a ball in my hand, I'll just drop that. Like, so if a ball goes out or sideline, we just play from there. But then one of like with two assistant coaches, so one of them will be Ireland, so like making sure we're set up properly. The players are understanding what we're looking to get out of this session. But the other coach then will be the opposition team that we're facing maybe in 2 days' time. How do they set up? What do they look to do? What are their patterns and so on? And then the goalkeeping coach is working with the goalkeepers. And he's in around that area, like coaching the goalkeepers. And it's another one as well. I see like goalkeepers come along, a goalkeeping coach come along, and then they do that 30 minutes like kicking and all that, like, and then it's like, right, I'm done, like, and I'll like go to the side or whatever, and let the coaches come in and do the outfield stuff. Like, nah, you're always there, you're always giving the information. The
Yeah.
key for you coaching is that maybe 45 minutes when you're doing that, like, so that's just giving a kind of an idea, I suppose, like, of how we work, like, and then everything. Then, yes, do we want to play out from the back against, like, yeah, of course we want to keep possession on that, but we just do need to be functional. You need to have the plan B and C. And also you need to get to the scenario that like players aren't looking out at you at the game going, what do we do here? Like, can they make their own decisions as much as possible? And like you give them as many tools and all that, but then like, it's into them, because yourself when you played or I played or whatever, if there's someone roaring in from the sideline and you're in a game and you're all over the place and you're maybe overloaded in the midfield or whatever, and there's someone roaring and shouting on the sideline, like your head is gone, like.
Yeah.
So I think that's a big one as well. So maybe that gives you an insight into maybe how we work and stuff.
That's exactly what I wanted, James. Thank you. Loads of different things to pick part there. First thing you said and what you wrapped up with as well. Like I spoke to a coach, Eddie Munley, who I know quite well, who's now at FIFA. He coached me at the QPR years ago. He speaks about we have this perfect academy style football that we play, but we should be teaching solution based. So if someone presses high and they leave a 1v1, there's no harm in putting it to the winger 1v1. There's nothing wrong with that. And
Yeah,
that's what you see with Pep as well. The other one you spoke about is about, I totally agree with you. We train midfielders all the time, maybe because they're the most all-rounded and the most general football players. But I think
yeah,
you win and lose the game in both boxes. You have to
yeah.
train in both boxes. And it brings back to the point around, like, are you overloading and giving more repetition to develop, or are you making it more relevant to the game? And it's the blend of
Mm.
that, I think, that gives the tools to the players. You get so much to listeners there.
Yeah, like the last, I mean, there's always that debate as well about like, you know, isolated training and all that kind of stuff, like, and technique or whatever, like like I always say, like, do what you think is best in the time you have, like, and use the time as best possible. Because, like, people sometimes come to, what would I'm like going, well, I don't have the players like 5 and 6 sessions a week. Like, if I had 5 or 6 sessions a week, I'd be probably going, what am I going to do tomorrow? Like, but like literally when you have them like for a shot, you need to give that best, like, and what you think is best for them to get across, like, and I don't think like one thing, and I said this last or Friday, I was doing one of the courses, and I just said, like, I was presenting kind of on our curriculum on player development, and I just said to him, look, guys, the very minute we write something down and put it on this document, it's outdated nearly, it's obsolete, like, as such, like, because football is so evolving, like, and you know who taught, like, like, I mean, a few years ago you didn't even know what an inverted like fullback was. Like, when I done my UEFA B license, the tutor said to me about open body shape, right? I had no idea. I was like, I'm on the UEFA B license, this is 2005. I was like, open body shape, and I was a player at the time, like, and all of a sudden I was like, oh wow, like, I literally, it was one of the moments where, like, that's being like straight, like, I did not know at that time, like, what an open body shape was. Even, again, a number of years ago, probably one of the best courses I ever done was with the KNVB over in Holland. It was back in the early stage, around that 2005, 2006. And Franz Hook, who's obviously a famous goalkeeping coach, he we're doing a session, and someone kicked the ball, keeper saved it, and the two boys went off the pitch, like, and he came in and he let such a roar, like, says, World Cup final, keeper saves the ball and you walk off the pitch, like, it's transition. And I was like, transition. What is that? Like, I have no idea. Like, so sometimes we think, oh, we know everything and all that. Like that's just a couple of examples of coming through and going, wow, what's going on here? Like, so yeah, it is very much evolving, and yeah, it's interesting times for the games. Like,
Yeah, it really is. But even your example you gave around the finishes, so if we want to make those finishes, those six touches world class, to have a second phase, a third phase, it might be a close skill practice, but then you might go into a scruffy finish type practice with opposition. So you're getting the repetition you feel you need to develop those players. So
yeah,
it's not one tool fits all. You have a range of different skills that you apply to the players. So I think you
yeah,
gave some really good examples there. But just moving on, James, because I don't want to take up too much of your time this evening. I know you've got planning to do for your camp, so
no worries.
I don't want to kill you. What is it like? I really want to ask you a question around what is it like at a Euro Championship or World Cup where pressure's high, even at under 17, that means everything to staff, to players. That is the pinnacle at their career at that time. What is it like? How do you manage that group dynamic? What do you feel of other teams? What sort of pressures do you feel or not feel?
Yeah, like look, like I mean, I go back to our last like in the women's under 17s, only 8 teams qualify for the Euros, like, right? So it's very, very, like, you think about 8 teams around Europe, like straight away you go like France, Germany, and Spain, England, like, that's four straight away. Scandinavian teams very strong in women's football. So it's really, really difficult. Like, but like our last round, to qualify for the Euros, we were actually first seeds. So like, going into us first seeds. Second seeds were France, third seeds were Italy, and the fourth seeds were Kosovo. Okay, so like everyone would have gone in and said, "Well, Kosovo will be the game that but Kosovo made it difficult for all teams as well. So no easy games in international football. And then like we won our first game against Kosovo 3-0, and then we played Italy, like, right, and a really big game, like, because like really you think France is going to be the main game, but like Italy's really like, and Italy was really like really tough. It was near 25 degrees like in March in France, like down around South France, and it was just unbelievable, like, really emotional game as well and all that. And we won 1-0, like, um, but like now you're going, it's unbelievable. But now you have to get ready to play your toughest game as well, like, and all that, like, because even a simple thing like going back to the hotel, like, everyone is so wired like that. Like sleep is an issue now because players. I know myself. Like I go do a late session or whatever. You come home, you're not sleeping till 2 o'clock in the morning. Like so like all that stuff needs to be taken into account. All the stuff we're thinking about and all that. But like, and then like you're after having an unbelievable high, and now you're preparing to play France, and it's in France, like, and we're both on 6 points, and whoever wins goes to the Euros, right? And they're a second seed to come in as second seed, like, and like, so we prepared like really well, said we're ready to go, whatever. And just give you kind of ideas, like, so we went into the game, we went one down maybe after about 15 minutes, right? And you're like, oh, it's gonna be tough. They're really at it now today, like, And then I think maybe on the 17th minute, our keeper, who's absolutely having like an unbelievable tournament, their centre forward just comes in and absolutely clatters, right? And she's like a massive like golf ball coming out of her head, like she's gone, right? And you're bringing on your game changers, we call them always, like, but you're bringing on your game changer, which you don't think is a goalkeeper as such, like, but
Yeah.
you're bringing on a goalkeeper. But now she's a game changer because like she needs to go in. She's done really well, right? Went in, and we end up, you know, maybe nearly going two down, but like we hung on, and then we scored like to make it 1-1 just before half time, right? Now you're going in. Half time even changes, like it's in 2 minutes now, boom, right? Where it's 1-1 and so on. Going to half time, brilliant. We're in this game. They're going to feel a little bit of pressure in their dressing room now as well. Like, 1-1 will get them through. They have a higher goal difference and all that. Like, and then we're about to go out, and our like probably key central midfielder gets up and then is like, I can't walk, like so, like some kind of like injury with her foot, like, and like she now is going in. We're trying to stop her restarting nearly the game, like, because like we're literally got the knock. Like, next thing she says, something wrong, so she's gone in with the physio. Like, just mad stuff, like, so just to paint a picture, like, and then we go out in the second half, and we actually had a really like good call for a penalty or whatever, like could have made it 2-1, but they're like constantly on us, like, and then it gets to we have to take her off. So she's gone now as well. So two like absolutely key players, like, and you're playing against France, right? And we get to the 60th minute, and they score to make it 2-1. And then you've other things going through your head, like, um, thinking about like maybe changing formation because now we need to win this game and all that, like, but like the game ended up 6-1. We lost 6-1, like, right? And like how you like you're talking about like players are crying. You're nearly like because you've given everything like to this, like, and players are obviously distraught, like, and like typical probably group, they're like feeling they let you down, like, and you're like going off, I maybe done this. Everyone is like their headspace, like, and it's really really tough. And then you have your parents and that as well that all come out as well, and one or two parents could be disappointed their daughter didn't play that day, and all it's
Yeah.
just like so like just paint the picture of how kind of difficult it can be, like, and but it's funny, like, I remember I always say to players, like, never, like, like, that's where, like, how you conduct yourself and everything. Like, players are just unbelievable. Like, went over, congratulated. Like, and even for myself, I went over to France and said, look, you're absolutely top class today. I wish you the best. Like, if you play like this, you win the Euros. Like, and like, they were second seed. They went on and won the Euros. Like, they actually bet Switzerland 10-2 in the semi final. Like, so maybe I wasn't the worst that year. Like, but that, like, I just want to kind of paint like that's like the ups and downs of that tournament. And then like you come home and you're home and you've got two kids and a wife that like haven't seen you for 10 days and they're mad to see you and you're just on the floor, like, but like, yeah, it's really really difficult that way, like, and you have your up days, but it is really really tough, like, so I don't know, yeah, just kind of paints a kind of picture of a kind of a tournament, so such highs and such lows, like, but like fantastic experiences for the players as well. Like, I mean, all that will stand to them as well. Like, and yeah, France just an incredible team. Like,
Yeah, it sounds crazy. I mean, people that don't work in sport probably won't understand like the in time, the quick decisions you have to make, and the emotional regulation you have to do, not just for yourself but for everybody else within the
yeah,
space of 2 or 3 minutes. So, but that's like a complete extreme. James, where do you sit, or where does the FII sit in terms of like, okay, so your job is to develop players for the first team, essentially, and bring as many like top talent through and bolster the top end. How does that filter down in terms of like winning at different age groups? So like you want to go there and win, like winning's a mentality, you want to do it, but where's the balance between development and winning, and how do you think they go hand in hand?
yeah. Like, I mean, look, like at the end of the day, like, senior is winning, right? Like, I mean, you go to the World Cup, like, we wanted to do as well as we could, small, like, really small margins and so on and so forth. But like that's winning, right? Like 19s, then obviously you are preparing to win as well. Like, and like, you need to get that mentality, the game management, all that. Like, and 17s is very similar as well because, like, there is Euros, there is qualification, there is seeding, there is all that kind of stuff. But like, you know, for example, like, we would have two players at the moment that are qualified for our 17s, but they're playing with the 19s because that's like where we see their challenge at the moment. Like, so if they can go and play on the 19s, like, that's obviously more of a challenge. Like, there's no point in them going and sitting on the bench, like, So, like,
Yeah,
and that's two players that I would love to have. Like, but again, that's, I suppose, where we're at. Like the key for us and like the key for me is probably how many players go up into the 19s, maybe on the first year from our 17s and so on, and then also like next, like, couple of years who actually goes and gets their senior appearances, like, and that gives you such a buzz when you see a girl like Abby
yeah,
Larkin spoke about, like, unbelievable. She was captain of the 17s, like, 16 months ago, like, so a very quick transition for her into playing a World Cup, being the youngest player to represent her country, boys and girls. So, like, but we do, like, you do need to get that across, like, because like the more games we play, like, so if you look at France, like, they got to go to the Euros, they played another 5 games in their development. So,
yeah,
and that's why it's a big thing for me, and I would love the men's under 17s is actually 16 teams, and that would give us a lot better of a chance. We would have qualified, like, obviously a second in that group. So like, what I'm seeing, and we have to be careful, is the elite, like, top teams in Europe would be seen as the top tier or whatever. They start to move away, like, and all of a sudden then you've kind of a middle, and then you've kind of like and it just, the gaps sometimes get bigger, like, so, we need to make sure we play, and that's like where the winning does come in. Like, we need to win games to get to them stages, like, so, and the
yeah.
mentality and all that and the momentum and all that. So, like, it does serve a purpose as well. Like, and I'm not like, when I go into a European, like, I'm not turning around to players and saying, guys, everyone's going to get played here. Like it's going to be great. Like you're going to get your face painted when you go out. You're going to get a balloon. Everything. It's like a pair. It's not like, I mean, that's not. We are at the top, like players in this country at that age. Like, and there's going to be lots of ups and downs and so on. And it's difficult for these players as well, like because you're talking about players that will always be the top players. Everyone has played them the most minutes. They've been captains and so on. And then all of a sudden they get to a stage where it's like, oh, I'm not starting this game, or I didn't come on in that game, or I'm maybe not the captain of a team, and that's all difficult for girls. And again, it comes back to as well something I'm passionate about. We have to be very careful what we praise. Like there's too many, particularly in the boys' game, where superstars at 12s and 13s, and everyone's like, "Oh, you're great, you're great." And next thing, all of a sudden, like they could be addicted to drugs or something at like 19, like they completely gone off the radar. I've seen it. Like I'm sure yourself, like have played with guys that were absolute superstars at young ages, and they never met anything. And then you had that kind of silent kind of person that did just went about their business and all that, and all of a sudden they're the top player or the professional player. Like even I always say this, like Shane Long would have been at my local club, like and obviously a senior international player for the Republic. Like he was probably the third best player at a local grassroots club at his age group. Like he
Yeah.
wasn't like and then 18, all of a sudden he was exploding. He was like really quick and all that. Like so, we have to be very careful what we praise. Like praise that effort and that values, good manners, all that kind of stuff, and particularly effort and all that. It was interesting. I seen something with Kobe Bryant the other night, and it was a little snippet of a video. It was on Twitter or something. And it was saying, yes, I was given unbelievable talent or whatever you want to say. Like he had something, but he said I worked every day to make sure I fulfilled that potential. Like every day, like and he says I've seen too many people who have thrown that away. Like
Yeah.
so he
Re
said, yeah.
Really good point. There was a guy, a goalkeeper coach called Perry Suckling, who works at Tottenham. He was a QPR for a little bit. He always said, beware of the silver medalist. So like the
Mm,
6, 7 out of 10, the consistent ones throughout the age groups
mm,
ends up becoming the front runner, as you
mm.
say, because they don't get the overpraise, the hunger's there, and people develop at different times, and
Yeah,
people don't
yeah.
understand.
It was just on that point. It was interesting. I watched King Richard the other night. I don't know if you've seen it.
Yeah, yeah,
The one
yeah.
with the yeah, like and like it was so funny. I was watching with my wife, like, and she was like, "You love this," and I was like, "Yeah." I was like looking all through, and I thought this is really, really good. Like, but you could see, like, early doors, like it's all about Venus, like, and so on, and Serena's kind of in the background, like, and then there's that little kind of scene, like, I can't believe I haven't seen this more often, like, but where he goes down and he speaks to Serena and says, like, you're going to be the best of all, like, and so on. And how often you see that as well. Sometimes it's the youngest in the families are actually,
Yeah.
turn out to be the better player or whatever. Like maybe it's been, they've always had to struggle or whatever. But I thought that was like, so then at the end, like comes up like 7 Grand Slams for Venus, which is unbelievable, one of the best players, but then 23 for Serena,
Crazy,
like
crazy.
crazy stuff, like,
A really good film, really good
yeah.
film. James, last couple, just to wrap this up, and I guess some kind of future questions for you personally, and also the girls' game in general in Ireland. Where, first of all, we'll start with there. Where do you see the girls' games growing all the time, and especially in Ireland, it's just getting, it's bigger and bigger and bigger. Where do you see it going, and how do you think it's going to get there? As you say, to really close that gap, maybe with some of the perceived bigger countries or more resource countries, or
Yeah, like look, like I suppose last year, like our league became professional, and now still a lot of players are amateur players as such, like but like we need to, like, it's all well and good, like having a scenario, where players go to England or go wherever, go to America, whatever it might be, but like we do need to try and produce players in our own league and have the standards and the quality and the coaching and everything of a very, very high standard, particularly for the younger players, like and you know all our players, if you look at Italian 19, all the players are playing top clubs over in the UK, and it was unbelievable. But now it's a different environment over there. Like, you even go to your academies, like there's a lot of international players and so on. Like obviously Brexit has maybe changed that a little bit, but that's the way the game has gone now. So the chances to get into them environments. So we need to make sure, like Brexit has been one of the best things for us, even though we mightn't see it yet, but we have had to get our act together
yeah,
at home to make sure we're not relying on English academies and Scottish academies to produce our players. Like so that's where we do, like, there's a big thing at the moment in terms of we're doing a football pathways plan. So Mark Hannum, our director of football, is at that at the moment, and that'll be released in November. And that'll kind of be the kind of future kind of where we see our players and our development going. And we've also done a strategy for facilities. Like facilities are really, really poor, and that's a major area that has to go hand in hand with player development as well. And then we have to look at obviously our underage leagues, and are we given the best competitions? Have we structures in terms of the best coaches working with them players well? Over the last number of years, through UEFA funding and our coach education department in Isla Regan, we've put through an awful lot of female coaches now, like unbelievable amount of female coaches gone through. But now we need to mentor them, we need to give them opportunities and so on, to become the best as well. And I still think there's a long way to go in terms of the standard of coaching all through, from grassroots up to the top end as well, which is very good, but we can always strive to be better. And an area that we touched on, obviously, an area that you work in is sports science and so on. Like, it's absolutely, very basic with us. Like, we all that area needs to become, top class. That we have, even in the female game, there's very little academic research, and so on. And you see it now. Like, ACLs are obviously a massive issue at the moment, but there's no kind of studies, or there's no kind of where, and if it was happening in the men's game, probably be loads of money put into it. So, these are all areas that we need to get better in as well. But I think the game at the moment, is growing itself, just with all, Italian 90 was the thing I say got me going. The same thing hopefully with the World Cup, with the women's game. But we can't just rely on that either. We have to be making sure we have put things in place ourselves. Yeah, it's going to require a lot of hard work and so on. And investment is a big one. Plain and simple. You need to invest. And as you know, in Ireland, there's a lot of people in a lot of sports as well that are looking for investment. Even our athletics and our athletes have done very well at the World Championships. So they'll be looking for, so everyone, for a small country, we do compete well, sports wise. I think if I invented a sport in the morning, we'd probably have an Ireland team by the evening. So it's funny that way.
Yeah, no, really good. I'm sure you're integral to those future progressions and moving it on. James, last question. Where's your future for yourself? Where do you want to get to? What's the progression for you? You've done some amazing things in your career so far. Where do you see your journey carrying on to?
Yeah, it's a really, I've always liked the idea of being a kind of a technical director, where you kind of oversee, and kind of have, real kind of change and so on. And I've seen some of that. So I've obviously, when I was younger and didn't have two kids and a wife, I've done a lot of traveling as well to see, different courses, different clubs, all that kind of stuff. So I've always loved that kind of side of it, that you kind of oversee the technical aspects of the club or the organization or whatever. I am very much wanting the FEI and Irish football to progress. So, sometimes people say, "Oh, would you not go travel or whatever?" Maybe into the future, kids are a little bit older and all that. It's an interesting one, because, people kind of say, "Oh, at the moment, I think I sometimes need to make a decision family wise now as well, because I've got a 1.5 year old and a 4.5 year old, so I've been away for 3 months of the year probably over the last 12 months, and that's tough, so I think, maybe my next choice might be to see, right, where we get them to a certain age, and be at home as much as possible, because you won't get back them years, so that's something, it's probably not the answer, it's oh, go here, there. I'm not overly people say, what about senior football? It doesn't, at the moment, it's not something I'm I love working with young players and trying to bring them on and give them values and habits and so on, and see them progress and all that. That really, I'd see myself as a player developer. So I'm not sure about senior football and stuff.
Brilliant. James, just on behalf of the Locker Room Podcast and DSS and the listeners, thank you very much for coming on today. It's been a really good chat, and they're going to get so much from it.
Perfect. No problem. Yeah, no, I really enjoyed it myself.
All the best in the camp and future qualifications for Euros, and we'll be keeping an eye out for the team.
Brilliant. Yeah, same to yourself.
Thank you, James. Top man.
No worries.